Hey, folks. Today's episode brought to you by my favorite sponsor, sunsetlakecbd.com. Use the code LEFTISBEST. You get 20% off. I'm mad at myself. I forgot to order my extra tincture a week or two ago when they were having a big tincture sale, but Left is Best will still get you 20% off. Get you 20% off the good night oil that I take every night before I go to sleep. It helps me sleep better. But they have all sorts of tinctures, 3 different flavors, 3 different concentrations, some with melatonin if you want. They have gummies with THC, gummies with delta-9. They also have gummies that have melatonin and cordyceps and lion's mane, all sorts of different gummies. They have smokables. They have keef and flour and pre-rolls. They have coffee and fudge. They have all salves and lotions. The salves I use over the summer when I get my eczema, and I use it on Saul's mosquito bites, but it's also for your muscles. They have all sorts of great CBD products, and they are all third-party tested. You can see all of the elements of these products at their website. They have great farming practices. They use integrated pest management, so no pesticides in your CBD. They also have great business practices, $20 minimum wage. They're mostly co-op owned, and they're big movement partners. They have supported strike relief funds and carceral reform and refugee resettlement. They've engaged in mutual aid up in Vermont in the wake of the floods. They have given thousands of dollars to Planned Parenthood, just a whole range of great progressive values. sunsetlakecbd.com. Great product, too. 20% off with the code LEFTISBEST. And now it is time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday. Tuesday, Casual Tuesday. Wednesday, Casual Hump Day. Thursday, Casual Thurs. That's what we call it. And Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, September 13th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Heather Parton, columnist at salon.com, or you may know her as the proprietor of the Uber blog Hullabaloo, but she is known as Digby. On the program today, Donald Trump, cowering, refuses a second debate with Kamala Harris, claiming he won the first, so why bother? Meanwhile, Harris has small bumps in polling post-debate. And also as a function of the debate and the right-wing hate machine bomb threats across Springfield, Ohio, following these Republican attacks on legal Haitian immigrants. Senate outlook sours for Democrats as Tester race runs lean Republican. Trump advisor / confidant Laura Loomer causes dissent among other Trump Republican cronies. Boeing union goes on strike. So too, LexisNexis workers. North Dakota abortion ban overturned by North Dakota state judge. Congratulations, Matt.
The clinic already moved to Minnesota, but take it.
Biden on verge of approving Ukraine use of long-range weapons in Russia as the Biden administration approves over $200 million worth of military equipment for the year 2027. Newsmax Smartmatic defamation trial appears to be headed to trial. This as the MyPillow guy sued for non-payment of DHL shipping of his pillows. Lastly, Israel defends striking yet another Gazan shelter, killing almost 24. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Emma is out today, feeling a little under the weather, but nothing serious. She will undoubtedly be back on Monday. Mostly we are in the post-debate era right now, and it is not going well for the Republican Party. Donald Trump apparently is refusing now to debate because, of course, he won. And I think it was Thune, the number 2 in the Senate, has come out and said he sort of thinks that Trump should probably try it again. And the reason why, and we'll talk more about this with Digby, is because there doesn't seem to be on the horizon any type of event, or really, frankly, a narrative in which an event can take place that would change the overall trajectory of this election at this point. Now, granted, Trump apparently is rolling out his kids' cryptocurrency in a couple of days. And that may, I guess, change some narrative, at least for his kids, that they'll have a sinecure, as it were, in the wake of Trump losing, if he does lose. But there doesn't seem to be anything else going on there. But meanwhile, this is happening. People made fun of the cats and dogs thing, and I think that's helpful. I think it's appropriate to mock the fact that Trump is lured in like some fox watching, Newsmax watching, Gateway pundit reading, old, disturbed man. But understand that fundamentally, this is not a story about Donald Trump being essentially sucked in by a fake rumor. This is the Republican Party's and Donald Trump's unmitigated hatred of immigrants, racism, and xenophobia. That's what this story is about. And here is J.D. Vance on CNBC, I think it is. What clip number is this? Oh, here it is. It's number 10. Yeah, this is him on CNBC trying to justify. Now it's moved past the reason why you should have a problem with legal immigrants from Haiti. Understand, they are here under temporary protected status. They are legal immigrants. Legal immigration. That's what we hear. All we want is legal immigration. They're here legally. The problem with immigration is not that people come here and they eat geese or they eat cats or dogs. The real problem, says J.D. Vance, is that immigration is just bad.
Town. If the path to prosperity was flooding your nation with low-wage immigrants, then Springfield, Ohio would be the most prosperous country and the most prosperous city in the world. America would be the most prosperous country in the world because Kamala Harris has flooded the country with 25 million legal aliens.
All right, pause.
What's actually happening?
Some of you may have picked up on the fact that America is, in fact, the most prosperous country on the world. And it is all a function of immigration, really, when you get down to it. But let's look at Springfield, the town. Is it the most prosperous town in the country? No, not yet. But has immigration to that town, and certainly there is no place in the country, there's no place in the world you could go where you have a town of 40 to 60,000 people, and there's an influx of 10 to 15,000 people, regardless of who those 10 to 15,000 people are, where it's not going to create tension and problems and a new set of problems because you fundamentally altered the nature of the town. Matt has talked about this happening in like Wyoming, in COVID, but it's really just a bunch of rich people coming and implicating things. There are, and this happens in actually a lot of rural places in the wake of COVID. A lot of city dwellers moved out there because they decided time to give up on the city. I want to live in a more rural area. But putting that aside, in terms of prosperity, what happens when you have, according to the city, 10 to 15,000 new immigrants over the course of a couple of years? What does it do to the city? We have definitely seen a large increase in rents, and which you would imagine because you either had a bunch of like empty homes, or there suddenly becomes increased demand and you need to start building more. And that's going to take a while to catch up. But what you also saw, according to the Springfield News Sun, a trusted news service, as you can see from since 1898, city hits $1 billion in tax values, works on 2024 budget. Scroll down here. As Springfield City Commissioners received a preview of finances for 2024, where are the numbers here? Okay. Yeah. The tax revenues have increased from right at the top there. For the first time in city history, the assessed tax valuation topped $1 billion for 2023. The previous year's total was $864 million. That is a jump of more than 15% year over year in tax revenues. Apparently, the city passed a levy that is going to allow the city to continue to operate. Now, this levy was passed back in 2017, but the bottom line is you have more economic activity going there. I don't know what's going to constitute prosperity in the mind of JD Vance, but things are definitely improving.
Yeah. You need people to move to your cities. None of these cities, like in the Midwest, like they're all again built by sort of migration, different patterns, of course. The point is to have labor protections, and then to make that sort of economic activity benefit labor.
Exactly. Next stop, let's see some unionization of those that factory that we saw the other day on that PBS show. And
unions, in fact, do lead a lot of these areas in helping protect both wages for the people who are already there and integrate people who are coming in.
And also, studies have shown that in 2022, undocumented immigrants paid almost $100 billion in taxes. Because if you're undocumented, you don't say, hey, I don't need to pay taxes. I'm not a citizen of this country. You just pay the taxes that get pulled out of your paycheck. So regardless of how you look at it, documented, undocumented, if we have a problem with low wages in this country, as Vance implies, like, let me put it this way. The low wages don't come with these workers. The low wages emanate out of the capitalists who own these means of production. And if we want to interfere in that relationship, we can do that.
Yeah, these cities are dying without this influx. The idea that it's immigrants that are killing these cities it's a Nazi lie.
It's literally a Nazi lie. Literally. We played the Nazi the other day who was speaking in front of. And I've seen this, like, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later in the program, but there's a video going around that Benny Johnson of Tenet Media and Russian subsidy fame inadvertent. He was victimized by Russian subsidies. Was promoting, and I've watched the video. In addition to it basically featuring, I think, 4 white residents, pre-existing residents, non-immigrant residents of Springfield, Ohio, 2 or 3 of which were outwardly racist. It also clearly proved that no one was eating cats or dogs, that the Haitian immigrants there maybe need better driving lessons, maybe, and are all seemingly very nice people who, when they're accused of eating cats and dogs, just sort of laugh and think it's sort of a hilarious lie to tell about them. But meanwhile, today in Springfield, Ohio, or I should say yesterday, everything is closed. City Hall, schools. There are bomb threats all over the city because of the lies that Donald Trump told and because of the anti-immigrant narrative that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and, frankly, the entire Republican apparatus thinks will behoove them in their election. That's what's going on there. So congratulations to the Republican Party.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with even like this car crash thing. I think it's probably less about driving and more about if you do get in an accident with somebody who happens to not be a white person, maybe don't have a racist hysteria born out of it. I don't know.
I mean, I have no doubt that there are differences, cultural difference in terms of driving. You come from Haiti to a small town. I have no doubt that those exist. And
invest in the DMV.
Yeah. Let's fund the DMV more. I mean, a bunch of the complaints in that film, and it for whatever reason, the guy opens it up with like blatantly racist stuff, in addition to playing footage of a completely non-related, non sequitur woman who was in Columbus, Ohio, who's an American citizen who killed a cat. Is these people being the most sort of like vile racists you could imagine, and the guy sort of chuckling it off. He really enjoys it. All right, in a moment, we're going to be talking to Digby about the debate about 9/11. Maybe we'll talk about Springfield a little bit more. But before we do, a couple of words from our sponsors. If you are like me, you are a details person. You are maybe a little bit OCD about those things. But even if you're not, you want to understand how things really work. You might read the nutritional labels on your cereal. I have even at one point read terms and conditions of one time when I bought something on the internet. When you're given a charity, if you're like this at all, you should check out GiveWell. It's an independent resource for rigorous, transparent research about great giving opportunities. Their website will leave even the most detail-oriented reader busy. GiveWell has spent now over 17 years researching charitable organizations and only directs funding to a few of the highest impact opportunities they've found. Over 100,000 donors have used GiveWell to donate more than $2 billion. Rigorous evidence suggests these donations will save over 200,000 lives and improve the lives of millions more. GiveWell wants as many donors as possible to make informed decisions about high-impact giving. You can find all of their research and recommendations on their site for free. You can make a tax-deductible donation to their recommended funds or charities, and GiveWell does not take a cut. The Boston Globe called GiveWell the gold standard for giving. And here are some examples of what donations to GiveWell's recommend charities can achieve. Bed nets to prevent malaria. Costs $5 to provide one net. Nets can reduce the number of malaria infections. Enough nets and a large enough drop in infections can save a life in expectation. Cash incentives for routine childhood vaccines. cost about $155 to vaccinate an infant. This funding provides cash transfers to incentivize caregivers to bring babies to clinics for routine childhood vaccinations, which prevent disease and reduce child mortality. Folks, check it out. They actually have a thing on their menu, I guess a vertical, whatever it is, of mistakes we've made. And they go back to when they were founded and list annually everything that they did that they got wrong at any given point. It's sort of fascinating to see how diligent these folks are. I have found great charities through the years. You can either give directly to one of their top-rated charities, or you can give to their funds, or you can give to other charities that they list on their site. It is really an amazingly helpful service if you want your dollar to go forward and or be as productive as possible. So check it out. Go to givewell.org to find out more and make a donation. Select podcast and enter the Majority Report with Sam Seder at checkout to make sure they know you heard it from us. Again, that's givewell.org to donate or find out more. We'll put a link to that in the podcast and YouTube description. Also, if you are old like myself, I should say, then you have a sense of what Hensen shaving is doing. But if you were born after 1970, there's a good chance that your first blade, your first razor was a multi-blade razor. They have been the status quo. However, most people say that they get some irritation when they shave. And there's virtually no information out there how to prevent irritation. Well, aside from the fact that over 2 billion plastic razors enter the landfill each year in the U.S. Alone, you've got irritation and no desire to have a subscription, no desire to have so much stuff that's disposable. This is why Hensen shaving exists. They want to change the shaving industry. Again, not through gimmicks like subscriptions or moisturizing strips, but groundbreaking research on the impact shaving has on your skin. Here is the dirty little secret, apparently, about the razor industry. It's not the sharpness of the blade. It is easy, and every cheap razor will have a sharp blade. Irritation and a good shave is a function of the distance that the razor sticks out from the, or I should say the blade sticks out from the razor. It is all about support. Hensen makes their razors in an aerospace machine shop in Canada that also makes parts for a Mars rover and International Space Station. Hensen's machinists are exceptional at manufacturing, and that level of precision is one of the big reasons their razor is so much gentler on your skin. They have made it so the blade extends only 0.0013 of an inch past the shave plane of the razor. That is less than the thickness of a human hair. Hensen razor works with standard dual-edge blades that cost less than 10 cents each. So once you purchase a Hensen razor, which are beautiful razors, it only costs about $3 to $5 a year to replace the blades. The razor itself is made of aluminum. There is no plastic. There's also no plastic in Hensen's packaging. I only shave here and here right now, but I don't even use shaving cream. The shave is so precise, and it really is, it's a revelation. It's time to say no to subscriptions and yes to a razor that's going to last you a lifetime. Visit hensenshaving.com/majority. Pick the razor for you. Use the code majority. You'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just make sure that you put them in the cart. It's 100 free blades when you head to hensenshaving.com/majority. That's HENSONSHAVING.com/majority and use the code majority. All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Heather Parton or Digby. We are back. Oh. All right, we're back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland out today, but joining us is Heather Parton, columnist at salon.com, and of course, proprietor of the Uber blog Hullabaloo, where she's known as Digby. Hello, Digby. Good to see you.
Hello. Hi, Sam. Good to see you too.
I think the last time we spoke was probably at the beginning of August. And I think it was, we may have pre-taped that, and it was, I think, just as like the Harris rollout was starting, and it was
We
crazy.
we speculated a bunch about the VP choice in that.
Oh,
do you remember?
I think that's right. So
Yeah.
we haven't even talked since Tim Walz has
No.
joined.
No.
And we should, remind people that we're about 2 weeks out from the VP debate. This is this is relevant, I think, in terms of like where we're at in terms of the campaign, but we'll get to that in a moment. But it certainly has been, we've had the Democratic convention. We've had the first and what apparently appears to be the last of the presidential debates. Well, why don't we just start with your perspective on the debate this week?
Well, I'm probably like everybody else. I mean, I was, completely blown away. I thought Harris did tremendously well and Trump fell apart, obviously. It was Harris is
You say this just because you got DNC talking points, right?
Well, of course.
Like everybody
I've
else
been
in the
totally
world.
brainwashed. Yeah, I mean, we all know that he actually won.
Right.
But it was also rigged so that he didn't win. So I'm a little confused, but I'm going to try and carry on. And in fact, now they're going after ABC. I don't know. I just read online before we started that they're sending letters to ABC demanding an investigation into the debate and whether or not they provided Harris with the question advance, which there's a whistleblower apparently out there who's saying that they did. Well, I mean, of course, how would she know that they were going to ask her stuff like, what's your policy on abortion, or, how do you feel about, fracking, or any of those questions? I mean, if she hadn't been given those questions in advance, she would not have known they were coming. They were that surprising. So that's, look, they're the biggest whiners on the planet. They are the biggest sore losers in world history. And this is just, the way that they roll. So I guess I'm not surprised by the reaction. I was a little surprised by how bad he was, though, I have to say. And I mean, were you surprised by it?
This is the thing that is like, after like a couple of days, the thing that has really, really cemented in my head is, like, I've always thought him to be, a little bit crazy and irresponsible, but I always thought there was a method to his madness on some level, right? Like, he's going out there and he knows, and sometimes there is. I mean, he knows, like, the reason why he comes into the spin room afterwards and says, I won, there's a poll that 90% and 85% and 75%. And even while they're doing this whole whistleblower at ABC, although that is, I think, a rear guard action, to be honest with you, but we can talk about that. But he was so triggered by this stuff, so out of control. There's just absolutely no way that he meant to talk about the cats and the dogs. There's just no way. He's really, I mean, we say this, offhandedly, but he's really nuts. Like, he's not capable of even, and I've worked with actually people like this. I mean, I directed Gary Busey for, 12 episodes, and, there was, when the camera's on, he sort of knew what he was doing. And he certainly knew what he was doing in certain instances, but it was pretty wacky. But Donald Trump was out of control. I mean, he was, and the one thing that he had to do was stay in control of himself. He didn't even have to control her. Like, and he couldn't do that. I mean, to be so easily triggered by the rally comment. Like, we watched this over again, and just to watch how he is incapable of taking that bait. I mean, this isn't like, like I can't manipulate my 11-year-old kid in this way, in the way that she did.
I know.
Right? I mean, that's like, this is like, he's really incapable of, you just wonder, let's put it this way. I mean, I'm not one of these people who is terribly concerned about, like, I don't necessarily buy into the rhetoric of what happens when he meets world leaders. But honestly, what happens when he meets world leaders?
I know.
This was easy. And he, thinks he knows who Kamala Harris is. Like, somebody comes in and speaks a foreign language and, maybe has an accent. Like, who knows what they could do to this guy?
Well, I mean, I think we have some evidence that he was a lot better, I think, when he first started than he is today. I think his mind has always been undisciplined. He really is unable to sort of, maintain any kind of focus. And that's been true forever. But it's gotten much, much worse. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I was shocked that he took the bait on that rally size. It was so obvious. And she was a little crude with it. That was probably her most crude baiting moment.
Yeah.
She baited him later in ways that were much more smooth than that one. That one just kind of, let's talk for a minute about his rallies, kind of came out of the blue. And I thought, oh, come on, he's not going to fall for this. I mean, he's not that. Well, boy, did he ever. And it was off to the races from that point on. He completely lost his, whatever anybody had said to him. Now, I don't know to what extent anybody can tell him anything. I don't know, like, they don't do debate prep, at least the kind that normal candidates do, in which they have somebody getting right up into the candidate's face and saying, this is what they're going to say to you. It's like being prepped for being on the witness stand or something. They make you face up to it ahead of time, the kind of awful, ugly things that people are going to say, and they prep you and say, don't fall for it, don't do this. That's just normal debate prep. I don't think he does that, because I don't think people are allowed to actually say something to him about that.
He definitely got prep. I mean, the whole thing where he says, I'm speaking now, which was a deliberate callback to what she had said to Pence. Now, I happen to think that, like, whoever told him to do that was an idiot, because she's not triggered like he is. And that just made him look bad. But that was clearly an indication that, okay, he the fact that he remembered to recall that and was going to do it wasn't just his idea. I don't know if it was Matt Gaetz or if it was Tulsi Gabbard. They all thought that somehow that was going to be, this is really going to throw her off in some way.
Well, he was aware of it, we know, because he had said earlier on, I can't remember, it was one of the interviews, maybe calling into Sean Hannity or something, I don't know, where he was saying, she was really nasty to Mike Pence. She treated him terribly, So they had been telling him that. And I totally agree. That sort of thing that he was prepped with. They were trying to give him some zingers and some sort of, responses. But I wonder, and I don't know this to be true, but I wonder if anybody could have told him, hey, man, she's going to go after you for the rally size thing. Don't fall for it. Don't do it. I don't know if they can do that with him, because the rally size, the size thing, when they had that thing with Obama, they put an ad out, the day before the campaign did, which I thought was really pretty ballsy, to come out with that Obama thing from the convention, where he kind of did the size thing.
Right.
So they were definitely trying to trigger him on that, and I just don't know if anybody can say that stuff to him. Maybe they can. Maybe Tulsi could say, hey, she's going to go after you on the crowd size thing.
Or anything, for that matter. Do not fall into her traps. Do not, and he just couldn't do it.
He was convinced that and I think he really believed this, which is just so sickening. He says she's dumb as a rock. She's very stupid. She's stupid, low IQ, this whole thing. You think that that's just something that he's saying, for his people, this kind of just sort of put that out there. You can't vote for her because she's stupid. I actually think he believed it. I think he actually thinks or thought, I don't know if he still does, that she's just really, mentally deficient. She's a woman, she's black, she's, good looking, all these things that in his mind, I just don't think he can think. He thinks any woman like her could possibly be an intelligent person. And as a result, I think he underestimated her tremendously. He didn't even, I don't think he did that with Clinton. I think when he was debating her, I think he knew he was dealing with a sharp person, but he had a different impression of her. So he was completely unprepared. And let's face facts, this guy is deteriorating. He's really deteriorating. They've shown some side-by-side comparisons of his debating skills in 2016 compared to this thing that he did, or even with Biden in the devastating debate a couple months ago. If Biden hadn't been so bad, we would have noticed this about him before. Yep. He is incapable of keeping a train of thought. He just can't do it anymore, though. His mind is no longer disciplined enough to do it. And when you look at
Matt, what was it, Matt, you were saying during the debate? Like Matt had a thing where you would just
tangential thinking.
Tangential thinking. Like, and it was almost constant. Like every answer he gave would just all of a sudden veer off in some direction. And he couldn't do everything. Incidentally, came back to immigration.
Well, that he was clear on was going to be his message of the night. And to that extent, he did accomplish that. He just brought everything back to immigration. And I was kind of surprised because I thought we'd hear a lot more about tariffs, which I thought was his other big obsession.
Well, we did.
Really, in the
we
beginning,
did hear that one segment about tariffs, but the David Dayen had a great piece on the tariffs, actually. And this is what was absent as far as I could tell, in terms of like Trump's whole thing. It was like he was giving the predicate for these things, but not providing sort of like the resolution. So it used to be, right? Like the problem with immigration is it's hurting working class people, or the tariffs are there because we need to build industry. Mm-hmm. But he's lost the plot. It's almost like he's like, was championing, we need more hammers because we need to build houses in 2016. And incidentally, I don't think he had any interest in building any houses, but at least he understood like there was a resolution to that predicate. Now he's just saying we need more hammers. In fact, I'm going to just make more hammers, and he's not connecting it to anything. It's just anti-immigration, period, and then just tariffs. And he doesn't seem to understand what tariffs are supposed to do.
He doesn't. It's obvious that he does not understand it. It is just a thing. Honestly, this came up, he got onto this back in the 1980s. And it happened because, and this is the absolute truth, I can't remember where I read this, it was years ago, but he was in LA actually, and he went by the port of Long Beach, and he saw all these Japanese cars coming in. And that was the moment somebody said to him, we ought to throw some tariffs on those things so we build more cars at home. That was it. That was all he needed to see. And it's the only economic idea he literally has ever had. It's the only thing he thinks about, and he's never understood it, never understood what the effects on the economy were, what it would do, or even in the positive sense of tariffs. There's a case to be made for a certain amount of protectionism, but he doesn't understand that.
Well, that example is that protection, but now he's not citing tariffs as a way of building American industry. He's citing tariffs because it's going to bring in revenue, and if it's bringing in revenue, it is failing. Because the whole idea is not to collect the revenue. The whole idea is that you're going to make it more expensive to buy those products, and it's going to spur manufacturing in this country. Right. Now, under Biden, we've seen I think it is close to 1 million new manufacturing jobs, with more in the pipeline because of the IRA. They're basically industrial planning is one of the sort of the highlights to me about the Biden administration. But he doesn't seem to, he's just saying tariffs. And I don't know if people I don't know that I think for the vast majority of people who support him, it doesn't really matter. I mean, but it's not in service of anything. And so there's no way for it to sort of like create new interest in his candidacy.
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, obviously, I think the most stunning example of this was that when he spoke with the New York Economic Club.
Yes.
Those are people who actually do know what a tariff is, or at least one assumes that they do know what a tariff is. They're there at the Economic Club. And he did exactly what you described. He did not, bring the tariff concept into any sort of resolution. There was no idea, here's what we're trying to do, and we're going to use tariffs to do it. It's a tool to get us to, do it. There was none of that.
The question was about childcare.
And, well, that's just it. She asked him about, and he had talked about tariffs through his entire speech, which was just, whatever. But when she asked him about childcare, he says, well, we'll have the tariffs. Now, he could have said, this would have been ridiculous for a Republican to say, and it would never happen, but he could have said, well, we're going to collect a lot of money off of these tariffs, and I plan to put in a national child care plan that will pay for child care with the tariffs. I mean, I suspect maybe that was what he was implying, or he wasn't.
He was implying that the tariffs are going to bring in so much money, you're going to be able to pay for whatever you want.
Right. It's going to make everybody, and growth. And that's the other thing he says. We're going to have so much growth that, we won't even have to think about any of this, blah, blah, blah. So, look, he is mentally incontinent. He is unable to sort of, do anything other than sort of blurt out these talking points that he has developed for himself. And he gets into this, he has that, he's got the NATO dues thing. He's got, nobody ever would have messed with us. Vladimir Putin wouldn't have invaded Ukraine if I'd have been president. I mean, it just has a litany of things that he just says, which he tried to do in the debate. And the problem was that he had someone else there who was there not just to refute him, but to sort of model what a normal politician sounds like in that situation. I mean, she was very, very good, obviously very well prepared. She knew what she was doing. But, she was a generic politician in a debate in which you're, being responsive to the questions and you're answering them and you have a set of policies, and she had some zingers for him. And, that's a normal debate kind of thing. And that's what I think really was devastating for him, because his rally style rhetoric over there, glowering at the camera and doing this whole thing, and being defensive constantly, being defensive, talking about the stolen election and whining about unfairness and all of this stuff, as compared to this person over here. Well, he made her look presidential, in a way that, and I think she has accomplished that. I mean, I want to give her some credit for that too, because that's not easy for her to do. We've never had a woman president. She's, I think she has made herself look presidential. She did it at the convention. She's done it on the campaign trail. And that's a big hurdle for the first woman president to get over. And I think she's done it. And he actually helped her do it in that debate by being side by side and seeing this hunched over, angry old man next to her. It was just obvious. And I think, most people, of course, he did win that debate 90-67, but
I saw it
on television. Yeah.
Two things I want to just sort of like that you raise here that I think are important. One is, I think he, I'm thinking back to that Clinton Trump debate in 2016, and he was I didn't like what he said, but he was sharp enough to be like sort of like engaging in some type of it strikes me that he has not and is incapable of getting over the fact that Biden is not his running against.
Devastating.
Like it's just like he cannot let go of this. It is honestly like, I mean, I keep referencing my 11-year-old, who I actually think now, incidentally, I want to say credit to my 11-year-old, I think has surpassed Trump in emotional maturity. But it's not been long that these things, and if you're a kid, it's very difficult sometimes to let go of a disappointment. But if you're, I mean, it is like, you said that we were, that I was going to have ice cream tonight. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. You had a cupcake earlier. You're not going to get ice cream. And, 3 hours later, they're having a meltdown because you said earlier that I could have, you said yesterday I could have ice cream and then we didn't have it. And they can't get over it. And for like a day and a half, like we were supposed to have ice cream yesterday. And it's almost like what Trump is exhibiting. And that's why he's like, sort of like from the get-go, he's incapable of like not being triggered or whatever it is. But this other part, like, I'm just fascinated when you think about all the fear that a Harris presidential campaign represented to people who were nervous about Harris, and which wasn't completely unfounded in any way in terms of like not her. I'm talking generically speaking. The idea of a black woman running against Trump, and it has been remarkable. They tried early on with the DEI stuff. And they ran into like basically a meat grinder. They haven't been able to come up with another narrative, and she has been, I think, sort of like very, very cautious in avoiding defining her campaign in any way on those terms.
Absolutely.
And I was really struck in the debate where she was talking about, in fact. Let's put this up. This is interesting. An outfit called Blueprint, which is a polling firm that apparently I am told is in favor in the sort of like centrist circles of and put up the graph that shows or the table that shows the table that shows what were the best and worst messages that Harris had. I don't know if you can see that, Heather. Can you see that?
I can't really, but that's okay.
Okay. I'll read off some. Like the best was that polled at 62%. And they had, I don't know, about 1,200, I think it's of people who watched the debate. The best at 62% was, we need a president who actually brings values and a perspective that's about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of a leader who actually understands that strength is not beating people down, it's lifting people up. The next highest, 59%. I believe the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us. We don't want an approach that's constantly trying to divide us, especially by race. We see each other a friend, a neighbor. We don't want a leader who's constantly trying to have America pointing fingers at each other. I contrast this to what Obama did, which was there's no red American, blue America.
Right.
He defined it in like we're all Americans despite our political differences. She's not doing that. She's saying we're all Americans because we're just all Americans. Despite the fact that we might be from a different part of the country, we might be a different race, we might be different gender. I find that sort of a fascinating shift.
That is interesting. I had not thought about that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, people sort of said, oh, she, kind of took the same approach as Obama and contrasted it with Clinton, who had a very, strongly feminist campaign in 2016. But that's really interesting because she is doing that. We're just all Americans. Just, no real, red, blue, not even really making it political. That's
but she also
a very
specifically
fine
avoided
distinction.
Because she didn't talk about bipartisanship. She's not pretending that the Republicans aren't crazy. She's basically pretending at the end of the day, even if some of our neighbors are crazy, they're still our neighbors.
Right, they're our neighbors. Right, right, and that idea too that look, she has not done. I mean, yes, she accepted, and this was it's been probably pretty hard for you to take, me too, to see Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and Alberto Gonzalez and that whole crew, endorsing, and the Democrats, some of them, not her particularly, I think she's handled it pretty gracefully, the accepting of the endorsements. I haven't seen her just go, yeah, they're wonderful, they're fantastic people and we need them, whatever. But there have been Democrats who did that, this is the best thing in the world. But she's trying to do something that's pretty difficult to do, which is to both excite the base, which I think when you and I talked last, we were talking about the VP choice, and that was a big part of our discussion was,
Yep.
If she, and I was really happy with her choice of Waltz. I don't know about you, but I thought, I think he's pretty good. And, but I think she's trying to balance this of trying to bring together the base, which she seems to be doing pretty well, and also expanding the base. Or I shouldn't say expanding the base, expanding the coalition. And there is a difference because the base is the base and the coalition is a bunch of, people welcome to join. You can join our party, you can do whatever, but she's not giving them much, at least not that we can see. And basically saying, let's all, we're going to stop Trump. It's kind of a popular front idea. And it'll be interesting to see if this works, if at the end of the day it works. People like you and I, and, probably most people listening today are going to then be going, well, what was given away in all this,
Right.
because, what we have to watch that because we don't know. I mean, you invite Dick Cheney into the tent, you got to be a little concerned. On the other hand, you have to beat Donald Trump. You have to. You have to do everything you can to beat Donald Trump. And so if that's helpful in bringing in, some, I don't know, a few percentage points of disaffected Republicans, then it's worth doing. But she is trying to do that. And so far, so good, as far as I can see. I mean, I have not felt alienated from her campaign as a progressive. Yet. I mean, I haven't felt that. I mean, I'm sure there will be times. I'm not a big trusting person and I'm not one that loves politicians, but I'm watching this campaign of hers. And so far, I'm pretty impressed with how she's managed to bring this coalition together in a very short period of time. And granted, everybody was, so relieved that we were more than, happy to give her the benefit of the doubt. But so far, so good. And, obviously, if she wins the election, we'll all, sit back and see what happens here. But mainly, breathe a big sigh of relief that Donald Trump didn't win.
I am definitely with you. Look, there's one of two people who are going to win this election, and it's either going to be Donald Trump or it's going to be Kamala Harris. That's it. There's no other story. Anything anybody says is complete fantasy world. And that I am totally with you in terms of like Kamala Harris has to be the one. And to the extent, and I think that I think she has done a good job of not like hippie punching, as it were. Yeah. There's been but to the extent that there are things that alienate me from her campaign, it is largely by omission, right? Like I would like to see her differentiate herself from the current administration's policy in terms of Israel. Right. I don't think there's anything that she can do at this juncture in terms of like materially change what's going on, but she can indicate that there's going to be a change of some sort. Mm-hmm. I think that it's possible to read into what she has said. If you really want to split some hairs, that maybe there is going to be a change. There's some nuance in there in terms of like opening the door to conditioning aid, et cetera, but it's a little bit too subtle, I think. And then interestingly, there is the three poorest polling of these quotes performed the worst by people who watched the debate. Again, which of these quotes from Kamala Harris provides the strongest reason to vote for Kamala Harris, even if none of them do, which provides the strongest reason of the two, okay? And the worst performing at 42%, the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. That bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now over time to try and do their job. Now, she could talk about that bill and say, which provides a pathway to citizenship for people. And emphasize that part about it. But and I understand why she thinks she needs to do this. It is clearly wrong. And it is, I mean, I find that stuff problematic. I think what's going on in Springfield, Ohio is a function to some extent of the absence of filling that space with a more proactive democratic policy. Like, we're treating immigration now like they want, like, you know, folks like Hillary Clinton, frankly, were trying to treat abortion in 2004.
Yeah. I agree with you.
And I think that's a problem. And then I love our small business. My plan is to give $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they're the part of the backbone of America's economy. 39%. Like, there was no talk of the care economy. There was no talk of of infrastructure building or Green New Deal or these type of things, which all have been, you know, to some extent successes for the Biden administration. Now I get, like, she doesn't want to be associated. She wants to feel like she's still a change agent. And then the worst at 31%. This is the worst. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as a vice president of the United States. I was a tie-breaking vote in the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have to invest diverse sources of energy so we reduce reliance on foreign oil. Now, I will say, even though that's like 31% versus 62%, it's half of what her top line. This line was specifically for Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I will also say that even in Pennsylvania, largely speaking, that's not necessarily a winning issue. Like, more people, I think, would rather ban fracking in Pennsylvania. I recall the polls basically showing this.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, but she is targeting a narrow subsection of people in Pennsylvania. This is not for, because the majority who might be in favor of banning fracking are still going to vote for her. This is the calculation, I think.
Yeah. I think
He's
you're
looking
right.
for this slight sliver of people in Pennsylvania who are against the banning of fracking and wants to bring them over. But I worry about these things. I worry that, like, they're building their coalition around these things. And I worry about that. I can hold two thoughts in my head.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
You and I, and you were beating the drum on this from like the day, I mean, it was December of 2008. You were saying Barack Obama wants to cut Social Security. And you were right. You were absolutely right. He had given one interview and talked about entitlement reform and whatnot. And it came in part from the way he won the Iowa primary.
Absolutely.
And which is what he's like, Social Security's in trouble, which is always like, you gotta, as soon as somebody says Social Security's in trouble, you know, you gotta be like, right, because everything's in trouble. And the fix for Social Security is a lot lighter of a lift than it is for other things. But when someone starts to say Social Security is in trouble, hold on to your Social Security benefits. That's all.
Exactly. And also going back to what you said, talking earlier about the, Obama red and blue state and Harris's, sort of approach to that. Part of what I saw with Obama was a deep desire to solve the bipartisanship problem. That was the grand bargain, remember? And so he was we're going to cut entitlements, and we'll get in return, what was it? It was carbon pricing or something like that. Sort of a Green New Deal environmental thing that he had. They were going to balance these ideas out. This was going to be this grand bargain, and then they would take it off the table. And he really thought that he had the capability of just sort of single-handedly making that happen, that he has the force of his personality, the big win that he had, the mandate that he was given, that he was going to be able to do that. And of course, we know that that was impossible. You and I knew it was impossible to do because we were aware of what the Republican Party really was, and they were not going to cooperate with him in any way. And of course, they didn't. So I will be looking for that with Harris. Is there anything in her that suggests that she thinks that this Republican Party is going to be her partner. Because if she thinks that, then we have a problem, because that is always, always a sign. I mean, this is a battle that we're in now. And of course, the Republican Party is even way nuttier than they were when Obama came in. I mean, they've really gone off the cliff. But I'm looking for that. This is, you get Dick Cheney in the tent.
Yep.
Liz Cheney is, your big surrogate. You have to be thinking, on what basis, do they believe that there's going to be some possibility? And you can see it in some of the punditry. And that doesn't necessarily reflect on her, but it does reflect on a certain establishment mentality that somehow or another, maybe because she's got these Republicans endorsing her. This might be true in terms of the military, foreign policy, any number of places where you're going to see this, that maybe that means that she's got some specific, talent or some specific vision for bipartisanship. And I don't think that's true. I'm hoping she actually learned more from Joe Biden on that as his vice president and watched his performance in that situation and how he managed to pass a lot of legislation that was, it was totally partisan because they didn't,
He dropped the ball after the American Rescue Act by letting the Republicans string out the Build Back Better stuff.
Yeah, they did. You're right.
He said, "Come bring me a proposal," and when they failed, then he said, "I'll listen to Portman Cinema," which was a problem because he ended up, I think, really, missing a massive opportunity that I think would have been
right. He should have steamrollered that instead of just sort of doing the long 100%. Negotiation.
100%. So maybe she learned from that too. I mean, we'll see. As a public service, I want to remind people that as late as 2019, Liz Cheney was at a press conference with fellow Republicans saying that Democrats believe in killing babies after they are born. Liz Cheney is not your friend. Dick Cheney should be in shackles. And I would feel very comfortable with him endorsing Kamala Harris or whoever he wanted if it was like through the bars of a jail cell. I feel like he should have
over one of those prison phone calls, with the beeping in the background.
Do you accept that you're getting a collect call from Dick Cheney in The Hague? Do you accept? And personally, I would reject, but I can understand maybe if others would be willing to just take that a little bit. But I mean, so here we are. What do you think? Okay, so Trump is not going to debate again. I think that's a massive show of weakness.
Oh, it is
because he needs another debate. He needs another debate. I mean, he really does. I don't see what changes in the dynamics because the story of Harris winning the debate is going to last another week or two. Coverage of her was turning a little bit sour, it seemed to me.
It was flattening for sure. Just kind of,
but some of the coverage was she's not having, there's no details.
The interviews and all that.
And now it feels like it's going to last another 2 weeks. But once we get 2 weeks out, we're in the pre-vice presidential debate mode where everybody's going to be talking about Vance and Tim Walz.
Yeah.
And that I think, is going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But what do you have any sense of what the next sort of chapter is? We went through the Harris honeymoon, then we went through the inevitable, returning to the mean on some level in terms of the way things are being, reported in terms of the narrative. She's still raising a ton of cash. I feel like we can never really know what the ground game situation is because we hear such conflicting, although Charlie Kirk is involved in the get out the vote thing for Trump, and I think that's a very good sign
It's
for
a
anybody
big grift. It's a big grift,
that
and
dude
he
went all in Arizona for who is it? What's her
Blake
name?
Masters.
No, not Blake Masters. Carrie Lake, is it? And and totally failed.
Yeah.
Totally failed. I mean,
What
this
does he
guy's
know
a
about
proven
this?
loser when it comes to get out the vote, and I think that's a great thing that he's somehow like intricately involved in that. But what do you see anything from like a sort of a the punditry assessments that one might make over the next 6 weeks, I guess?
I don't know. You would expect that there would be another debate and that would be the next big thing. I mean, that's sort of how these things go. We'll have the VP debate, then they'd have one last debate between them. They'd do some, they'd barnstorm. I mean, it's getting close now. I mean, we're in the heart of the final stretch here. But they're not going to do another debate, or at least it doesn't appear so. I agree with you. I do not understand why I get why he's rejecting it. He's scared to death of doing that again and making a fool of himself. He knows that he failed badly, but I would think that he couldn't do worse. So he'd be better off doing another debate and at least trying to raise. I mean, there have been lots of bad debates. Obama gave a terrible debate in 2012, and he came back and rescued his campaign to the extent it needed to be rescued. So he could do that. He could do better, but maybe he's just too lazy or just too incapable of doing better, or he knows that on some level. So that's surprising. So what I'm seeing now is that I think that she is going to ramp up her interviews with the press. They're doing a lot of local press, which is very smart. You don't have to go, they don't answer to Ezra Klein or to, the New York Times editorial board. They really don't have to, crawl on their bellies and give them what they want. However, she's probably going to do some more of that. I think they'll be, at least from what I understand, they're going to ramp up her appearances. And do some interviews, one-on-one interviews with I don't know, some, I guess not CNN, maybe on ABC or something like that. So maybe that's what they're going to do, is just try and get her out there a little bit more that way. And they certainly are energetically focusing on these battleground states. I mean, it is going to be a blitz. And, looking at her in North Carolina yesterday, she, got close to 20,000 people in the second rally after the first one, which was also pretty big. So, that enthusiasm out there, that's a story in itself. And it's one that's very good for Harris. I mean, look, this is a balm to the Democratic base. It really is. It's been years now of this dour, sour, pessimistic, sort of political culture under Donald Trump. I mean, it has been so depressing to have to deal with him and just be constantly on the defensive and constantly sort of, it's been totally oppositional. There is something about her campaign, and it's not just born of relief, I don't think. I think some of it has to do with what we were talking about earlier. She's not emphasizing the firstness of her candidacy, being the first Black woman, the first East Asian woman, the first woman potentially to be
whatever
president.
She's putting out there today.
Whatever she thinks she is today, with the White House is going to smell like curry. I'm going, good. That sounds really, I love curry. That's a good smell. But whatever. She is bringing a certain kind of energy to the campaign that I think a lot of just normie Democratic voters are just kind of, oh, thank you. I feel good for a few minutes here instead of feeling like crap all the time. And, so maybe that is going to be just, if they can keep building on that. I don't know. You're right. It did sort of revert there. There was this kind of, and the press was starting to get yammery, and what's her position on plastic straws, and, all this kind of nonsense was getting there. So I don't know if they can maintain it. But if they can, I think it will be good. And then, of course, we've got, there's always Trump out there doing something completely insane, like the dog and cat thing and carrying Laura Loomer around with him.
Yeah, I don't think that he has the capability of changing the context, but I do worry, Netanyahu might find it in his interest to, start a war with Iran. And I think, Biden Biden is supposedly poised to allow the Ukrainians to use long-range Western weapons into Russia. My hope is that is really just sort of a threat that is calibrated towards the chance of Harris winning, because I think that,
I hope so. I really
that
hope
conflict
that's what
is
that is.
so, it seems to me, so contingent upon the election. If Donald Trump becomes president, there is no doubt in my mind that you will see, within 4 or 5, 6 months, Russia will take a big chunk of Ukraine.
Absolutely.
And
J.D. Vance said it yesterday. He came out and actually said, this is what is going to happen. So,
but I think if Putin realizes that Harris is going to be in office, for at least 4 years, I think at that point, then negotiations start probably in earnest.
Yeah.
Israel, I think the difference between, Harris and Trump is more, Trump basically says you can take the West Bank now, and that's about it. I think it is an open question as to how much pressure Harris will exert on Israel. But if a war breaks out, what is your sense of because if Donald Trump has the ability to go around and go like Joe Biden sending, planes into Iran, I don't know if that helps Trump really, frankly, because he's going to say who do you trust, me or Kamala Harris, to run this war? But she is part of the administration. Yeah.
And he, his whole thing is, it never would have happened if I'd have been there. They wouldn't they wouldn't have thought of it. They wouldn't even dream of it. I just don't know. That's one of the things that is so scary, because we do have these two, separate situations that are just on a knife's edge, where anything can happen. They're wars, and that's unpredictable. And I don't know whether or not that kicks in a sort of, we need a strong man kind of, we better put him back in. And then of course, on the other hand, look at who he is now. He's not just another guy. He's a very, disturbed individual who's old and decrepit and declining. And a lot of people saw that. So that's going to factor in too. Do you want to put that guy in? It'd be one thing if it was another man. If it was J.D. Vance, terrifyingly enough, I think that would really benefit him, because, put in this case an ex-Marine, he'll get in there and take care of things. I could totally see people doing that. So, fingers crossed that this does not blow up before the election, that none of that blows up, because I think then you're talking, and the thing is, look at how close this is. And everybody insists that it's going to remain close. And that is, we'll talk about this after the election, because
we're going to end up talking one more time before I think the election. So. Oh
yeah, but we will have discussions going forward about what all this says about our country, and what this says about what the damage that has been done and where we go from here. Because I think there's an absolute misconception that Harris wins, Trump is gone, we're going to revert to the way it used to be, and there is no reverting to the way it used to be.
We've been saying this for a long time. This is the Republican Party.
Changed.
Whether they can be terribly effective on a national level as opposed to in the Senate or the House is a distinct question. But in terms of the electorate is not going away. The constituents that make up the Republican Party are not going away. They have been set on a trajectory, and there has not been a deviation of that trajectory in at least the 20 some odd years that you and I have been following this, professionally. There has been no change in that trajectory whatsoever. No circumstance. And George Bush got bowled over by it in 2005. I remind people about that immigration reform that he attempted, and he got bowled over by it.
Yeah, he left office with a 28% approval rating. That guy who had been he had a 90% approval rating after 9/11. I mean, there was no stopping it. It's not, these politicians, of course, they were priming it for a demagogue like Donald Trump, and he sort of stepped into the role. But this was happening anyway. And he just happened to opportunistically take advantage of it and led them in exactly the direction they wanted to go. But this constituency, our fellow Americans, this vast number of our fellow Americans, this is who they are. And every time, you think about the election, you think about, gosh, we're going to get some stuff done. And surprisingly, the Democrats have gotten some stuff done. They actually did manage to get some things passed and legislation and money flowing and various things like that. So it's not hopeless. But my God, the amount of effort that it takes to just maintain some kind of normal, decent governance in this society is overwhelming. And I am, continually, I don't want to become a cynic. I never have been one, but, I'm a little nervous about my fellow Americans. I'm a little nervous about them.
Heather Parton, we will link to your stuff on salon.com as well as your Uber blog, Hullabaloo. As always, a pleasure. We'll talk to you at least one more time before the election.
I hope so.
And, we'll see. Hang
Fingers crossed, everybody.
Exactly.
Fingers crossed. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Heather. All right, folks. Gonna take a break here. In a moment, head to the fun half. I'm seeing reports that a man named Matt Nelson self-immolated in front of the Israeli consulate in Boston. I don't know if that's the case. I haven't seen it reported in any news outlets yet, but seeing that case, I don't know, people are sending text about it.
Yes, a YouTube video he supposedly uploaded, but again, I'm waiting on reporting to not nail that stuff down.
How did he upload the video?
Yeah, when I saw it, it was on
YouTube.
prior to the event. Him saying, I'm going to engage in an act of extreme protest.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. Head into the fun half. We will be taking phone calls, ladies and gentlemen. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. As of tomorrow, and we'll send another email, the link to our live in-person election night show in Brooklyn, USA at the Bell House will be live. We will send an email to our email list, and we will put it starting Monday. We'll put the link in our podcast and YouTube description. So if you're in the Brooklyn area, or, I think we may have people from across the country coming. There are rumors that John from San Antonio will be there. Now, we heard those rumors last time, and it turned out to be John Benjamin, which was a huge letdown for a lot of people. Understandable. Totally understandable. But we'll see. There you go. Munchies says, my biggest problem with Digby is that she never mentions that if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch account for a free subscription, free to the user, to the Majority Report. It has been something that we have talked to Digby about, and she refuses to remind people who watch us on Twitch that you can assign, if you have a Prime account, you don't have to pay anything. You can assign that the benefits of that Prime account, not the actual benefits of the Prime account. I'm saying the subscription fee to our Twitch channel. Told this to Heather time after time. She refuses to say that. Also, V on the IAMs. I was undocumented until recently for 10 years. Paid taxes every single year on my Social Security number. When COVID hit, I was not eligible to get unemployment even during the emergency. I had 2 comorbidities, but had to work for a year and a half without the vaccine because even though I paid taxes, I was not eligible for the benefits of it. This happened to millions of other immigrants. The farce that we are a burden to the state is the most offensive of all.
It's a giant lie, and there's no way the people responsible for maintaining that system are unaware of that, because I've been aware of that dynamic since I was in high school.
Totally. All right, folks. Wanted to say poggers, and that your support is what keeps this show going. You can help this show survive and thrive by becoming a member today at jointhemajority.report.com. Also, don't forget, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, fair trade coffee and hot chocolate. You can get the Majority Report blend, or you can get any of their blends or single origin coffees at justcoffee.coop. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Matt, what's happening on ESPN, Bradley?
ESPN on Monday, we recapped the slate of Week 1 games in the NFL, and on Thursday, we had our first episode back of ESPN OT to recap our picks from last week and also let everyone know about our picks for this week of Week 2 NFL action. We'll be back on Monday at 4 p.m. at youtube.com/ESPN show. You can also go there to check out some of our prior streams and clips if you'd like.
Matt, Left Reckoning.
Yeah, Tuesday on Left Reckoning, Nick and Neil of Left Notes came on to talk about where we're at with the Democratic Socialist Project in America, and also patreon.com/Left Reckoning on the Sunday show for patrons. We're going to be reacting to the debate and talking about some other stuff. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning.
All right, folks. See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
And the alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflakes says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense.
See, white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males
Psych. Fuck 'em. Snowflake says what?
What?
Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keep it at 100.
Can't knock the hustle.
Come on, fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday.